Amazon had the perfect chance to deliver an epic Warhammer series with Henry Cavill, a true fan and passionate producer, but once again, woke Hollywood is forcing changes, pressuring him to break lore, and risking the show's success by pushing political agendas. So why can't studios let Henry stay true to the source material? Why are we seeing Cavill face the same battle he fought with The Witcher and Superman? And could this spell disaster not just for Warhammer, but for Cavill's entire Hollywood future? Instead of empowering Cavill to craft an authentic Warhammer series that could rally both loyal fans and newcomers, these behind-the-scenes demands are creating roadblocks that could jeopardize the entire show's success. Fans have seen other creators like the iconic George R.R. Martin speak up recently against such interference in adaptation work. It's a reminder that franchises can suffer when studios prioritize agendas over storytelling, a trend Cavill himself has unfortunately experienced before. Adding to this is the heated controversy around the female Custodes decision, which has frustrated diehard fans and led some to abandon the franchise altogether. Sales of Warhammer products have reportedly slumped, and even Games Workshop stock felt the impact. To make matters worse, the much-anticipated beta for Warhammer Space Marine 2 was scrapped, and the game now features microtransactions despite earlier promises that it wouldn't. The franchise is in a critical phase, which is surprising considering the immense excitement that initially surrounded the idea of a Warhammer cinematic universe led by Cavill. Now, with Amazon pushing changes and fan frustration bubbling over, it's clear that the dream of a Warhammer expansion is facing serious challenges. The initial excitement surrounding Amazon's Warhammer 40K series has significantly faded, largely due to ongoing reports of conflict between Henry Cavill and the streaming giant. Cavill, who had hoped to bring a faithful adaptation of Warhammer to life, is reportedly being blocked from executing his vision. This has left fans feeling betrayed, as they were rooting for Cavill not only because of his passion for the franchise, but also because he had consistently shown his dedication to staying true to source material in the past. Now, instead of being allowed to bring his vision to life, Cavill is caught in a familiar battle with studios who seem more focused on pushing their own agenda. It's not just fans who are noticing Cavill's treatment. Journalists are beginning to call attention to his recurring struggle. FandomWire recently published an article with the poignant headline, "This Man Deserved Better." Cavill's career has been marked by a series of setbacks that seem almost too coincidental given how much he's had to fight for creative control over the years. Take his exit from Superman, for example. Cavill lost the role due to creative decisions that didn't align with the character's established portrayal, leaving fans and the actor himself frustrated. The failure of the DCEU is often attributed to the same issue: poor writing and mismanagement, which ultimately led to its collapse. A similar story unfolded with his departure from the Witcher series on Netflix. Cavill, a huge fan of the books and games, wanted the show to stay true to the original material. He offered suggestions, but the creators dismissed his input. And over time, Cavill grew increasingly dissatisfied with the direction the show was taking. Eventually, he made the difficult decision to leave the series, something that shocked fans who admired his dedication to the source material. Now, with Warhammer 40K, Cavill is once again dealing with a situation that's painfully familiar. This isn't just any franchise for him, it's something he's been passionate about since childhood. He's been collecting the figures, reading the lore, and immersing himself in the Warhammer universe for decades. Being cast as the lead and having the chance to produce the show is a dream come true for Cavill. With a producer role, he had the opportunity to have a real say in how the show would be made, not just in front of the camera, but behind it as well. But despite all his hard work and dedication, it seems like once again, outside forces are sabotaging his vision, leaving fans to wonder how much longer he will be able to hold on to his creative ideals in this industry. Once again, the situation with Warhammer 40K seems to be taking a turn for the worse because Amazon is pushing Henry Cavill to make changes that he feels compromise the integrity of the source material. One of the biggest issues arises with the Custodes, a faction he's deeply passionate about. The Custodes have always been an all-male army, but Amazon is insisting on introducing women into their ranks as part of their broader diversity guidelines. These guidelines demand that half of all characters be female, and they also impose quotas for racial diversity and representation of LGBTQ characters. For Cavill, these demands aren't just creatively limiting, they're also historically inaccurate to the Warhammer universe. He is being asked to follow rules that don't align with the established lore, and it's frustrating for him as someone who's genuinely invested in making the show a faithful adaptation. Fans admire Cavill not only for his talent, but also for his passion. He's known for being deeply involved in the franchises he participates in, and his enthusiasm for maintaining authenticity is a key reason why he's so beloved by fans. His passion for gaming, Warhammer, and other fandoms is clear in his work, and it's something his audience respects. But unfortunately, studios don't seem to share the same level of dedication or respect for the original material. The reasons behind these forced changes can be multifaceted. Often, studios want to inject their political agendas into a project, using it as a platform to push diversity in a way that feels inorganic. Alternatively, it could stem from a general lack of understanding or care for the material itself. Some creators, whether out of laziness or lack of research, simply fail to appreciate what makes the source material special, leading to unnecessary changes that make the adaptation worse. There's also a common frustrating trend where directors or producers believe they can improve on the original material, which often results in disastrous outcomes. This mindset is becoming more and more visible across various adaptations, and it's something fans are increasingly calling out. One of the most recent high-profile figures to criticize this trend is George R.R. Martin, the author behind Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire. Martin has pointed out how adaptations often fail to capture the essence of what made the original work great, leading to disappointing results. Unfortunately, this trend doesn't seem to be slowing down. This issue isn't just limited to adaptations from books to film, it's increasingly becoming a problem in the gaming to film world as well. Writers, directors, and studios often believe their version of a beloved franchise is somehow better than the original. They start tweaking more and more details, adding in their own ideas, and eventually you end up with a product that barely resembles the source material anymore. It stops being an adaptation and becomes something closer to a poorly executed fan fiction. And this is a point that George R.R. Martin has even touched on, noting how these adaptations often lose their essence as the original vision is twisted by overzealous creators. A major issue with modern writing is the arrogance of some writers who feel the need to put their own stamp on something instead of respecting the original work. They can't create something unique, so they latch onto existing intellectual property that has an established fan base, thinking they can somehow make it better, but what often happens is the opposite. They take something great and turn it into something unrecognizable. This mindset has contributed to the downfall of many beloved franchises like The Rings of Power, The Witcher, Wheel of Time, Star Wars, and even the MCU, all of which have been tarnished by creators who think their fan fiction ideas are an upgrade. It's this trend that continues to plague adaptations, and unfortunately it looks like the upcoming Warhammer 40K show from Amazon is going down the same path. Henry Cavill once again finds himself in a situation where he's cast in a role he cares deeply about and performs brilliantly in, only for the studio or director to mess things up with unnecessary changes. It's becoming an unfortunate pattern in his career, and it's one that more and more fans are starting to notice. The Fandom Wire article I mentioned earlier delves into this very issue. It highlights how Henry Cavill has become one of the most underappreciated actors in Hollywood, despite his consistent dedication to roles he truly believes in. The article captures the essence of his situation perfectly, emphasizing the unfortunate cycle he's caught in being passionate about projects only for studios and writers to undermine the very thing he's fighting for: fidelity to the original material. This pattern of mismanagement not only hurts the actors but also betrays the fans who are the true custodians of these beloved universes. Over the years, Henry Cavill's career has been marked by a frustrating pattern of being mistreated despite his deep understanding and commitment to the projects he takes on. Starting with his performance in Immortals in 2011, Cavill was forced to witness the destruction of one of the most complex mythologies in history, Greek mythology. The filmmakers took pieces of it, distorted them, and warped the original story to fit their vision. While some of the components worked within the context of the film, the end result was a version of Greek mythology that was almost unrecognizable, leaving fans disappointed. This pattern of disloyalty to the source material continued when Cavill joined the DC Universe as Superman. There's no denying that Cavill was a perfect fit for the role. His portrayal was widely praised, but Zack Snyder's take on the character was often criticized for deviating from the core of Superman's essence. The portrayal of Superman was darker, more morally ambiguous, and at times unrecognizable to longtime fans of the hero. Cavill was in a role that should have been a career-defining moment, but the direction of the films around him wasn't faithful to what many fans loved about the character. Then came The Witcher, a series that Cavill was incredibly passionate about. As a longtime fan of both the books and the games, he saw this as an opportunity to truly honor the source material. However, the show quickly strayed from the essence of The Witcher, with changes to the plot, characters, and lore that felt forced and unnecessary. Despite Cavill's repeated efforts to steer the series back on course, his concerns were ignored. Eventually, after being unable to align with the direction of the show, Cavill made the difficult decision to leave. The consistent trend throughout Cavill's career has been his dedication to staying true to the source material. He's always been more than just an actor. He's been a fan, someone who respects the world that's been created and wants to honor it. But time and again, he's found himself in situations where the creators or studios decide to take liberties with these beloved stories, and that's led to tension and ultimately his departure from projects. His exit from The Witcher was a wake-up call for fans who saw the same pattern unfolding yet again with his involvement in Warhammer 40K. Now, with Warhammer 40K, there's hope that Cavill can finally be part of a project that respects both his passion for the material and the original vision of the franchise. Yet, given the track record of how studios and creators have mishandled projects with Cavill at the helm, that hope may be fleeting. If past mistakes are allowed to repeat, Warhammer 40K could suffer the same fate as the other projects Cavill has been involved in, where his passion and dedication to staying true to the source material ultimately clash with corporate interests and creative changes that undermine the very essence of the stories. Fans can only hope that this time Cavill's involvement will lead to something faithful and true to the Warhammer 40K universe. Henry Cavill has long been a steadfast guardian of the source material he holds dear, standing as a buffer between the stories he's passionate about and the demands of studio executives who often fail to understand or respect the essence of those projects. This shadow, ever present throughout his career, has forced Cavill to be cautious. He cannot afford to let the cycle of compromises and dilution of material continue, especially now that he's involved in the Warhammer 40K series of franchise with a rich history of games, books, and lore. With 12 existing games and more on the way, there's no shortage of content to adapt, and with Cavill at the helm, there's potential for a long-running series, possibly even spin-offs. However, the challenge remains when studios treat projects like a cash cow rather than a creative expression. The integrity of the original material is often sacrificed. The moment projects shift from a passionate creative endeavor to a mere revenue stream, the art itself suffers. Studios push for changes, add their own flair, and make adjustments that often serve their commercial interests more than the quality of the work. Fans, as usual, are left helpless, watching their beloved stories fall apart at the hands of corporate agendas. Cavill knows this all too well from his experience with The Witcher. As a fan of both the books and the games, he saw the show depart from its source material in ways that were frustrating and disrespectful, which ultimately led to his departure. The situation with Warhammer 40K threatens to follow the same path if the studio's hands aren't kept in check. However, there's a glimmer of hope this time. Cavill is not only an actor in the Warhammer 40K series, but he also holds the position of producer, giving him significant influence over the production and creative decisions. His passion for the franchise is well known. He's not just a fan, but an active participant in the community, even building his own gaming PC, engaging with fans online. This time, Cavill is in a unique position to ensure that the series stays faithful to the heart of the Warhammer universe. It's a pivotal moment. He must use all his influence to make sure the mistakes of the past aren't repeated. Despite reports of behind-the-scenes drama and tensions with Amazon, it's encouraging to see some journalists addressing the ongoing trend of studios making unnecessary changes to beloved properties, as well as highlighting the situation with Cavill and Warhammer 40K. The actor has been mistreated too many times, and it's time for this cycle of ruinous adaptations to stop. The more attention that's brought to these issues, the more likely it is that studios will have to listen to their audience. If they continue down this path, they risk failure with each project, but if they learn to respect the source material, they might still have a chance to save Warhammer 40K, and perhaps even restore some credibility to Hollywood adaptations as a whole. Right now, things seem uncertain, but I remain hopeful that the situation will improve. The industry has the potential to turn things around if they acknowledge the power of the fans and the importance of fidelity to the original works. What do you think about all of this? Let me know in the comments. If you want to support me, please like, share, and subscribe.